Hey guys, I'm Trixi, aka the Thoughtful Beast. Today I am here with Rich. Hi, Rich.
Wait, how do you? There you go.
Yes.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Trixi's live stream.
Rich has been on several times before. He did a lot of Let's Make a Scene, which I do miss that. You were hilarious in that, by the way, every time you came on, especially when you got stuck in the Tiger King's voice or whatever you did, trying to be a leprechaun. That was great. I really enjoyed that, and I will never forget it.
Fun.
So, Rich is here to talk about the state of colorism. He is here as part of the series of addressing anti-Blackness in our own culture. Before we get down to it, Rich, tell us a little bit about yourself. Rich, talk about yourself, Rich. Oh, what's happening? Oh, he's doing something, and I can't leave him alone yet. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do. I'm just going to do this. Enjoy, like, my dancing until he comes back. Rolling. You're muted. I don't know what you're saying.
Oh, did I mute myself?
You muted yourself.
Okay. Well, anyway,
okay. Now you tell us about yourself, and I'm going to go away. Ready? Introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Rich. I'm a content creator out of San Diego, California. Yeah, I'm the muscle and the enforcer of the SD Vlog Squad. I am the mouth too. I create a lot of controversy with what I say, so here I am. That's about it.
That was too quick for me.
Is that too quick for you? I have nothing. I have nothing to say. People should know me. Anybody in the live? Nobody's watching. Nobody loves me anyway. After you guys.
Oh my god. Okay, well, since that's how you really feel, I'm not going to feel bad about doing my post while I talk to you. I still really think it's funny that you think you're the muscle of the group, especially because apparently you haven't worked out in 2 years, so that's really interesting. Oh, you're mute again, Rich. Unless I did something. Did I do something? Oh, Adrian, is Rich mute? I think he's mute.
Am I mute? No, I'm not.
Now you're not.
Okay, I'm not gonna touch anything at this point. I don't know what's going on today. We have audio problems. I've had no problems except for today. Maybe.
Headphones. Oh yeah, you can see Adrian. Okay, so you know what? Let's just get started with this. Oh, he's a muscle at heart. That's funny. Not anymore. Okay, sorry. I should stop looking at the comments and talk to you, but it's just funny to me. So Rich, I mean, it's. Let's just talk about a little bit of how like life has been for you, like during quarantine, through like COVID, and then like with Black Lives Matter. How is your life shifted or not shifted?
You know, with the COVID thing, I'd never, as you know, I never really felt much of a change except for the lines because I was working. I was an essential worker, so I was always out. It wasn't like I was stuck at home or had nowhere to go or was laid off, and that was the most unfortunate thing. So nothing has really changed except for the fact that for a while there, I couldn't go to lunch anywhere at work because everybody was closed for dining, or you have to go through the drive-through. In regards to with BLM and all the protests, it wasn't unexpected, and it wasn't anything I was unfamiliar with because I went through the Watts riot. I mean, not the Watts riots. I'm not that old. I went through the Rodney King riots in LA. So I've understood and I lived in that area. So I've always understood where the frustrations and the promise of change, but yet there's a lack of change that's been going on for years now. So when it happened, it was one of those where I was in a position where I couldn't question like why the anger, right? So a lot of the social media and a lot of the individuals that you saw the post, it was always like, but why do you have to loot? Why do you have to do this? One, sometimes you are, so you do have people that want to take advantage of situations, and two, you have to really understand the anger. You have to understand the frustrations, and that's one of the biggest things that we fail as human beings sometimes, is that we can never harness that anger of ours to be able to take a step back and understand each other. And that goes both ways, right? It's like,
Yeah.
we need to be able to say, wait a second, I'm angry, but I have to kind of reel that in. Because when it comes to making an argument or making a point, I have to be concise, and I have to be 100% accurate in my facts or in my beliefs to be able to hopefully change somebody's mind or bring up a point. You can't just say, oh, they're angry because they're angry. You know what I mean? You don't win debates by saying because it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. I'm going to tell you right now, before we keep going, there's like a lag on your video. It's like really weird because it's like, it's not that much of a lag, but there's a lag, just so you know. But I can fully hear you. I think that's really right. I feel like, especially anger, a lot of the time people look at anger and they're just like automatically like, bad, anger, bad. And they don't try to understand, like, there are legitimate reasons to feel angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, yeah, like Black people get to feel angry. Like you said, like you lived through Rodney King, and I learned about that a little bit in school. When I was
you watched the footage, you like history class.
The footage when I was in school, because I think when it happened, what do you remember the year it happened?
92.
See, I was like, I was very young because I was born in 88. So when I went to first grade and stuff like that, like I remember like seeing some stuff and like getting older, being taught about it. And when things are in history books and stuff like that, it's really weird because it makes it seem like it happened a long, long, long time ago. Like even with like the civil rights movement, it feels like when it's presented as history in that way, it just makes you feel like this was a long, 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 long time ago. And it wasn't. It just
like
50
years, 55 years
ago.
Yeah,
55 years ago. And like you said, like Rodney King was like in the 90s, early 90s. That is not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And still there's this, like, still now, like people look at anger, and they still don't get it. Like what you said.
Yeah.
Like they don't get it. And then we get angry on the other side. We get defensive. And we're not trying to understand. We're just like not. We're just not.
I mean, people live different lives. Like nobody lives the same exact life in the United States. I mean, you have the people that live in the inner city, then you have the people that live in the suburbs, and you have the people that live, excluded in their mansions in La Jolla. So sometimes, like, when the whole notion of, the Black Lives Matter and the All Lives Matter crowd happened, sometimes you can't really, for me personally, I couldn't attack anybody that says all lives matter, because at first I have to understand where they're coming from, right? Like when I'll give you an example. When I joined the Navy, there was actually a guy there at boot camp that's never met a Filipino ever. I mean, you'd think that, like, what, 2009, 2010, you think somebody actually has met somebody Asian, but they didn't, because they lived like in a whatever, like in Oklahoma somewhere, like in a like small farming community. So sometimes it's like, you have individuals that live in those communities, and they might live kind of more in the suburbs, but they have Black friends, they have Asian friends, they have Mexican friends, but they're all still kind of protected by their community, right? Because it's a smaller community. So because they've lived their life specifically just in that environment, they don't necessarily see or have ever witnessed any type of racial injustice, right? So in their head, they're going to say, well, all lives matter, because the thing is, like, they've never actually experienced it to fully understand it. So the one thing you need to do is not necessarily go, no, you're effing wrong. You just have to kind of go, hey, well, listen, let's talk about this and have an understanding, as opposed to just attack. Because at that point, once you attack somebody, they're going to be defensive, and once you both are defensive, who's listening to each other? Nobody.
Yeah. It's really interesting, like, because, you know, there are like new terms for things that aren't just straight up like holding people accountable. There's like calling in and calling out. There's attack. Like, there are all these different things, and I'm curious to hear like how you feel like with those terms, like calling in versus calling out, like especially those terms, because like they're just kind of newish, and like also just knowing you, I'm like curious. What is your opinion?
I've never actually heard those terms. What's
really?
what's calling in and calling out?
Oh, I'm teaching you things. Okay, so calling out is basically like, you know, like I feel calling out is like what you think it is, right? Like, Rich, you did that shiz. That shit was like messed up and you shouldn't have done that, right? Like, it might be more attacky. It's not necessarily meant to be an attack. It's kind of more towards accountability. And it, you know, it will depend, because some people, you know, they do attack, and some people deserve to be attacked. Like, you know, like there are things to me that are black and white, like Harvey Weinstein. Yeah, attack, like boo, attack. You know, and then calling in is just more so supposed to be kind of like what you were saying. You know, like you're calling them and you're trying to explain things. You're trying to have a conversation, and it's coming more from compassion. It's very much like, yeah, let's talk about that all lives matter thing. Let me tell you like what I've heard. Like, let's discuss like how you know, that sentiment is true, and that's actually also what Black Lives Matter says. So calling in is just also kind of pointing, but going, come here and let me understand, let me try to explain. So that it's not like, it's in my head, it's like the opposite of cancel culture.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I like the calling in part a little bit. Calling out, it just, does it have to be on like all over social media? I mean, does it have, calling out has just such a devastating effect on a lot of people, only for sometimes just one thing that they've done that's relatively ignorant. It's almost like I've always said, right? Like this whole notion of politically correctness. Well, if everybody is tuned in to be politically correct, they're never going to learn anything, because they're always going to say the right thing, right? I'd rather have somebody tell me something completely ignorant or completely like off base about Filipinos, then I can correct them, and maybe that's something that they can carry on for years or whatever, and that's something that they've learned. If they're just going to simply tell me, oh, they, you know, all the PC things I want to hear, well, then how do we necessarily grow as a nation? It's almost like, you know, I might not necessarily agree with a lot of things that a lot of people do, or movies or things like that, and I see it, but you know what? I'm happy with the fact that they have a platform to say what they have to say, whether or not it's wrong or right, because that's the freedom of speech that we have in this country. This freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of whatever. That's the one thing that we do have in this country. We still have those rights and those freedoms, even though people want to twist it one way or another nowadays. I still solely believe that, you know, we still have some sort of platform that we can get on to educate people and to help them out, and basically drop knowledge on them. But calling out, it's almost like, yeah, like you know, that whole counterculture thing. It's like, yeah, let me dig up what you did 15 years ago, and then we're gonna base you solely on that. Well, what happened since, you know, it's like, let me give you an example. Like, you know, like who's that? Jimmy Kimmel. You know, I think he just went through the whole like cancel culture, right? Because he did like blackface.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why Jimmy Kimmel right now, his show, it's on hiatus. He's taking a break. You know, taking a vacation, because his life is stressful. But it's happened just as soon as somebody called him out for doing blackface, like on the Man Show, like 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But we as a society, we always evolve, and there's things that we actually learn and we do, and we can go all the way back, right? We can go all, like as Filipinos, we can go all the way back to World War II. That the fact that the United States justified them going to the Philippines to liberate us savages from the Japanese, right? But we don't go back and hold the United States really accountable for that. We just kind of go, that's some fucked up shit. But you know, but you know what I mean? Because we're still immigrating to the United States continuously, and the thing is that, you know, we look at what we've done since then. We always have to look at, have you grown as a person? Like you, like Trixi, I can go back and say, hey, as a 14-year-old, you said this. The one sentence you said can now be detrimental to your entire life, to your entire career, which to me is unfair, because you could have changed since you were 15.
Yeah.
But cancel culture doesn't really look at it that way. They're like, they're gonna find that one old tweet that you had.
Yeah, right? which is why cancel culture isn't my favorite, because I feel like a lot of the time it's just like, why are we nitpicking on this stuff and we're not looking at the people who are disgusting now and have always been disgusting? Right. You know what I mean? Like, come on. You know, I don't agree with like that one whole mistake thing. I do. How do I say this? I'm not for cancel culture. I am at this point for certain things, like for calling out or calling in, like making things public on social media and stuff like that. I think it really depends. You know, like if you're gonna like aim at one person for something they did a long time ago and they don't seem to be like that, that's weird. Like, you know, that seems weird. But for like right now, right? Talking about Black Lives Matter movement. And I'm going to talk about my own experience because it literally just happened. You know, like I did a public video with some of the work study from my group, and it was definitely a call-in, and we made it public, and we knew that some people would not respond well to making it public, even though we were hella nice, like, because we're not trying to be like, boo, you suck. We're trying to be like, hey, we want you to be the leaders that we think you are, and can be for our community, and have been in the past for our community. You know, but the whole thing with going public, like right now, like it's hard to trust people, you know, like you said before, there's a lot of people, Rodney King, civil rights, right? A lot of people said, we're going to make change. We're going to make change. We're going to make change. And then it's like, what happened to that change? That never happened. And, you know, there's a lot of people putting very generic, we stand with the Black community, and just being like, okay, what does that even mean? You know, like, okay, like, and so social media is really interesting. Someone brought this to my attention, or was talking about this the other day, where they're just like, you know, social media, like you have to understand that younger people, younger than us, Rich, younger than young people, like that's the way they communicate. You know, like social media is literally how they communicate with each other. And, you know, for us, I don't know how you feel, because, you know, like we were older, we were here before social media didn't exist, like as adults, really, you know? So like for me, social media means like, oh, that's a tool for marketing. Like, yeah, it's social, but it's kind of like that. But, you know, for younger people, like that's how they're ingrained. Like that's how they talk. Snapchat, TikTok. Not really Facebook, like Instagram, you know, like that is like part of their communication, and it's also a safe space, like a place where they do feel safe, like to talk about that. So it's just interesting.
Yeah, the thing with social media, especially Facebook, that people don't understand or don't talk about is the algorithm. Facebook feeds you what you want to see. Oh yeah. And people don't really see that. What? I challenge anybody, whichever side, whether you're Republican, Democrat, in the middle, whatever, click on a few opposing posts, pages, videos, and you will see your algorithm change within the next couple of days, right? If you don't like Trump, click on pro-Trump videos, pro-Trump links, and then you will automatically start to see more pro-Trump feeds start coming into your Facebook. It just, unfortunately, that people don't understand that. So you always have to be cognizant that what you're actually seeing it's not necessarily you searching for answers. It's just YouTube telling you Facebook or even YouTube telling you exactly what you should be listening to. Yeah. Not necessarily what you want, but because you've been clicking on because we, you know, as YouTubers, we understand the algorithm, right? That's why we have keywords, we have tags, and I know as soon as people start clicking those same keywords and tags, you might be recommended. right? And that's exactly how it happens on Facebook too, is that it's great. It's a great platform. And I think that's how the, you know, people communicate nowadays. But algorithm is always in play because I've tested it out, right? Do you know that I've actually there's this all these like Republican posts that I was clicking on, and most of them started getting flagged for what do you call that, the fact check, but none of the Democratic posts were being fact checked, but they both had like, you know, like that smoke screen, you know how it is with the memes. They both, and I'm like, so why is one side being fact checked but the other isn't? Because I will click on both so that I can get two sides of the story kind of thing. And because it's always interesting to me. I always laugh, and you know me with my posts, I just kind of leave it hanging. There's like really no side.
Yes. Rich likes to bait people. You know, like people, it's so funny. I mean, Rich likes to bait people, and not in a bad way. You just like put very like open-ended questions that are like quote unquote triggering to people.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see how people respond to you, because I've seen some of them where people, by you asking a question, they're assuming you think one way, but I'm like, but he didn't say that. And that's also not how I read it. And sometimes even if I do read it that way, I'm like, Rich is doing it on purpose because I know he's not like that. You know, and like, yeah, it's really funny.
Yeah, I do. I love it. But the thing is, because, you know, all right, so like based on this subtopic, right? That's why I said, you know, the state of colorism. Like a lot of people don't necessarily understand how their grandma in America is quote unquote anti-Black, right? They don't understand, but it's not necessarily anti-Black. It's anti-dark skin. Really, if you have to go deep down into the roots for you to be able to understand that and fight it. Because if you don't, again, you know, you can't just say, "Oh, grandma, you can't say that to Black people because basta, it's just the way it is." No, you don't win arguments that way. You have to really go back to like the time, like look at the top three conquerors of the Philippines. Who are they? The Spanish, the Americans, and the Japanese. Any of those countries dark skin at any time? At that time, they're all light skinned, right? But it all starts with the Spaniards. The Spaniards come to the Philippines, and I guarantee you, when the Spaniards came to the Philippines, there was no damn like light skinned Filipino anywhere in the Philippines. Everybody was dark. But as they actually started to grow their colony and then create wealth or steal land basically in the Philippines, they start having, you know, kids, and these kids are now quote unquote Filipinos, but they're Spanish. And so then there becomes that stigma of the lighter skin being the upper echelon, the rich, the proper people.
Yeah,
right?
The mestizos. Raise up the mestizos.
But they're not even mestizos because they're not mixed yet. Right, they're not mixed yet. So then you have like all the farm workers or your laborers being dark skinned. So you have that stigma, and then as time goes on, these those that have light skin, and because they also have the wealth, have the ability or the advantages or the opportunity to go to better schools, better jobs, better opportunities, while everybody else that's dark skinned is relegated to what, just being from the farm or from the mountains. You know, so it always boils down to that, and then you always have like even if you ask your grandma, do you like Black people? And they're like, no, I like Black people, I just don't want you to marry one. But a lot of it is also based on their experiences, because in the Philippines, you can't call it racism because they're all Filipinos. So you can't be racist against a Filipino. It's more like prejudice, right? Prejudice against the color. And it all boils down to like, they don't want you to have to go through those same problems or the same roadblocks that they went through simply based on color.
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's subconsciously it's ingrained in them to always say, "Oh, you're getting dark," or "You're getting dark," "You're getting dark," and a lot of times you say, "Oh, you're getting dark," like you just work outside, because work obviously in the Philippines, working outside is means that you are a lower class, and
Yeah.
it still happens to this very day. It's a multi-billion dollar multi-billion dollar industry in the Philippines to be light skinned.
Yes. I was on here with Leia, and she told Bella or something, like, because we were talking about how our parents, like, bleached our skin under the guise of they were giving us acne cream. But that's what they said, and I had bad acne, so I believed my mom. And it's so interesting you said that, and like, again, this is why I like having you on, because you also like think in a different way than I do, but I'm like, it's all kind of the same. Because you have more of that understanding than I do of like, look, you got to look at how they see it, like with explaining, like, it's not anti-Black for them, it's anti-dark. And in my head, that is still the same thing. It's just like an unconsciousness, or it isn't anti-Black to them, but it transfers into anti-Blackness in their behaviors.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
the thing is, like, in the Philippines, it's not anti-Black, but the problem is too is that when they move from the Philippines to here, that's where it changes, because when Filipinos start immigrating into America, they obviously didn't have a lot of money, so they get put in certain parts of towns that are predominantly like either Mexican or Black, right? But they sometimes they're just dropped into that town, right? And so the only people that would actually teach them, or kind of like, oh, who's your tour guide here? Who's your sponsor to get to America to work, would be somebody white. And the only thing that the only thing that they're hearing now is all the bad things, right? And what do Asians normally do? What do people normally do? They segregate themselves, right? They segregate themselves into little, like, Mira Mesa, like West Covina, like, they separate themselves, or let's say Daly City,
yeah.
parts of Fremont, and it's just you segregate themselves, and then obviously once you do that, you've already closed yourself off, and then the only thing now you're listening to is the news. You're listening and you're watching movies, and look, if you simply watch the movies back in like the 80s and 90s, every Black person was either a pimp or a drug dealer or a gangster. That's just how it was, and that's just those are the kind of films that were popular. And in the news, it was when the crack epidemic happened, right? Every all they showed was, in the city, the Mission District, South of Market, not Mission District, the Tenderloin Market, and all they show is like African Americans. In New York, they'll show the projects, African Americans. They never show crack or any drug problems in the suburbs. Do you ever see a documentary about the crack epidemic in San Francisco, and they have the Black Hawk District? No, because Black Hawk is super rich, right? No, I'm pretty sure cocaine was probably a bigger problem there with the rich than crack was, but it was never, because sensationalism. This actually creates better headlines to them, and that's really how the anti-color falls into the anti-Blackness. But a lot of it is just subconsciously, and it's ingrained in them, and that's why, as I said, you can't just go and attack your Lola and say, Lola, you're wrong, because again, because we're Filipino, we also have that respecting your elders type of
thing.
Yeah,
you can't say that.
but you can do micro attacks, as I call it. You can do micro attacks, be like, Lola, that's not right. Black people aren't really like that, and just leave, stop it at that, and just come back again and go, Lola, why is it so bad to be so dark? Like blah blah blah. You know what I mean? It's like, because the minute you raise your voice, any Filipino that's born in the Philippines, raised in the Philippines, automatically say you are disrespectful.
Yeah, it's a hard stop.
Yeah.
It's a hard stop.
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
I mean, it's history. You really have to investigate. You really have to investigate what has happened. You know, like how, the St. Louis Fair.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you know that the Filipinos were once the main attraction at the St. Louis Fair?
I went to because they had Igorots and I'm Igorot, so like we went to like the convention, like we went to this when I was young. I was way too young to go. I don't know why they let me go. I was like 11 and we went to a Filipino convention. I think it was an Igorot convention about the World's Fair, and we were in St. Louis. That was the first time I was in St. Louis, and I was with my cousins and not my parents. They sent us as part of our Filipino organization as youth. Yeah, it was really interesting. And it was interesting being in St. Louis for like that reason, because they're just like, hey, like your people were here. You were definitely like a zoo exhibit. And if you tried to run, they'd kill you.
Yeah.
Done. Like that was it. That was your people.
Yeah. like a lot of Filipinos do not know that part of history. Like that they uprooted a whole village and created a mock village in the middle of the St. Louis Fair and say, oh, look, these are like your quote unquote our animals.
Yeah.
You have kids growing up in that kind of environment. And, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, we always have to look back. We always have to we have to do the proper research and know whatever history that we need to know to be able to fight this battle, because somebody will question you. And if you can't answer it, your voice is technically invalid. I mean, at least to me, right? I mean, if you're just yelling at me and I ask you a question and you can't answer it, then at some point I'm like, well, maybe you need to do some more research, because there are going to be people that you got to win a debate. That's what I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that part, ooh, that's a good thing to bring up, because it's really interesting, because some people just very much, not even like about facts, but when it comes to like debating, not everyone knows how to debate people, and that.
But Facebook itself is like huge debate every single time.
Oh, but I mean, there's the proof, though, right? A lot of people don't know how to debate.
Yeah.
And debating is not my favorite. You and Joey should just have a debate, like, because he just likes that too. He literally likes debate.
Yeah. I don't think like if it was Joey and I, it's probably more of a discussion than a debate. It's just because
you could. Like, if you guys wanted to, like, he likes that, is what I'm saying. When coronavirus is over, you guys can come. You can come over again, and then you can, like, debate about something random. You can both play devil's advocate for something.
Here, I'm like, Joey, iPhone is better than Android, because this thing is horrible.
Oh my God. Yes, please. Like debating and education, like you're right. Research is important, right? Education is important. And it's so, I feel like more and more people are realizing that, like, our education is really lacking. We don't know a lot of this stuff. One of my friends told me their little brother never learned about the Civil War, because his school just was like, oh, we don't need to do that. Let's focus on the Revolutionary War.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, in the there's also a Philippine-American War. People don't remember that, right? Like 1911, 1914, like nobody remembers that.
No,
it's a precursor to Vietnam. He probably should have told them that they could never win Vietnam, because they didn't really win in the Philippines either. I mean, you have these jungle guys. I mean, weapons were developed to kill Filipinos. I mean, they needed higher caliber bullets, because the Filipinos at that point could not be taken down simply by a 22 caliber round. So they had to go up they have to get bigger rounds to take down Filipinos.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing, like, we don't learn about history. Again, going back to like when I learned history, it was all very much, this is in the past and it's fine. You know, when I learned about Filipinos coming to America and stuff, it's very positive. You know, it's very positive. And like the whole nursing thing, you know, it's positive opportunity and stuff. And, you know, it's not like that. It's all bad, obviously, but there's a lot of stuff like that was wrong with that. Like there's a lot of the nurses, they can come over, but they were also paid less. You know, they're paid a lot less. They had to do like the crappier jobs, like plainly put. Like, they had to do like the harder things for less money. You know, and that's just, they're just taking advantage of a lot.
Yeah, well, it's the same. It's the same in the Navy, right? You recruit out of the Philippines, but you can only be a cook, really, to be honest.
That's my dad. Yeah, he was a cook.
See, because at some point you can. Well, your dad probably not. He probably just fell in line with the cooks because every Filipino he knew was a cook. But for a long time, when you're either black or Filipino, you couldn't get the technical jobs, right? You couldn't get the certain jobs because they didn't deem you quote unquote smart enough for that. So you ended up with like the cooking jobs. And that's why, you know, it's really important too. Like you watch movies like the one about Carl Brashear, you know, the first African-American Navy master diver, you know, and in certain things like that. And you really get to see like what it's like. But the thing is that that generation enabled a lot of us to be able to come and a lot of us to be able to be here currently in the United States. So it's almost like it sucks and they took the brunt of it, and all I can do is give them my respect. Obviously it's changed now because, you know, not every Filipino, you know, in the Navy is a cook, and some of them are more high some of our nurses now earn more than all the regular nurses because they're, but it just, I just want to, you know, basically we just got to go back and really think about like what they had to go through.
Yeah, because it's you know, like you said, like the whole thing we're talking about, it's not simple and it's not effective to just be like, Mom, you racist. Daddy, I love you, but you're right. You know what I mean? Like there has to be more. It's true. Like, you know, if you really want to change people's minds, and sometimes that's upsetting to me because I'm just like, this is obviously wrong. What the fuck? But you know, like understanding, like if your priority is to reach out to people and call them in and try to persuade them, you know, in earnest with compassion, then obviously yelling and stuff is not the way to go. You know, if your priority is to cancel the crap out of all the people you don't agree with, then go ahead, yell away, because that's how you do that. You just yell at everyone and call them crappy. But that's not what most of us want to do. We don't. That's not what we want. Like, you know, a lot of people are having a really hard time because they're just like, how do I set my boundaries with my family? You know, like, how do I like talk to them and have a conversation and not have it come out as disrespectful, or not talk and then all of a sudden be squashed down so quickly.
But the thing too is that, you know, how honest are you about those feelings, right? Because sometimes, you know, with all the things that are going on and all the things that you see on TV and on Facebook, most Filipinos or most Asians have never ever even seen or felt any type of discrimination in that way, right? They just kind of get strung up and they get emotional and they kind of just ride that wave. But then because they're doing it, there's really no they're not invested in it for the long haul, right? Like xenophobia, right? The whole Chinese virus thing and the Asian thing. Like, I'll be honest with you, most Asians don't run into that type of prejudice or racism and it was just a bunch of clips put together, and all of a sudden, no, you have xenophobia. And what happened? It died. When was the last time you seen a post about Asians being attacked for the coronavirus? Zero. Because they rode that wave, and because Asians don't necessarily feel, or they don't necessarily run into those situations, their heart and their soul and their spirit is not invested in it. So guess what? It will disappear. That momentum that they have will disappear with the next challenge or the next big thing. And that's
probably really true.
And that's what I said. Remember, I was posting certain things on my Facebook just to say, "Oh, are you guys tired? Because I haven't heard anything from you." And I put those things so that it marks it. Like, are you done already? Like, I'll just leave that, and people are like, "What do you mean? Are you done already?" It's because I look at it, and one, with the George Floyd situation, how can Asians that were yelling at that point, they were yelling so at the top of their lungs about being discriminated upon and being labeled as coronavirus carriers. How could you not turn around and say, hey, that guy is probably the worst person there, that the Asian police officer, because he just stood there. The man just stood there. You could argue with the guy with his knee on the guy on George Floyd's door. You can argue that he couldn't see where his placement was. He couldn't see, because you have to be able to look at somebody's face to be able to judge, his mental status and his breathing and all whatever. You can make an argument he didn't know what was going on. But the guy standing in front of him, you have a clear view of everything, and you did absolutely nothing. And what triggered me and what pissed me off is that the Asian community stayed silent, like zero. Like, if we don't say anything, the spotlight will not be on us. If we don't say anything, everything will be perfectly fine, and people will forget. They're all just gonna blame the white guy. But as Asians, we need to go, hey, that guy is wrong. If we really want to stick up and say, hey, don't judge us for who we are, and we don't want to be marginalized as somebody's coronavirus and beat up, you also have to call out that guy for doing absolutely nothing to save another minority.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because you're right. Like, he just stood there. It's like, that's literally his picture, right? Like, that's the picture you see.
He turned around like 6 times. I counted. I'm watching him. I'm like, this guy was the biggest wuss there is. Like, if I were to indict anybody there, it would be him, because he had a full unobstructed view of what was going on. He turned around to the crowd. The crowd wasn't being out of control. So that's the reason why he could turn his back. If the crowd was hostile, he would never turn his back. Then you give him a free pass. But the fact that he turned around multiple times and kept looking, bro, you're the one I'm pointing to. You're the one that could have stopped this, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of like a good analogy of like how a lot of Asian Pacific Islanders are like acting, right? We're just like bystanders to it.
No, like, we're bystanders to it. It's because we've always been like the Bruce Lee, right? The Green Hornet, the Asian buddy, right? Like, we don't really agree with Asians, but he's this guy here. He's not really. What is it? He's not a threat, because we've always come to him, because we've never wanted conflict, because we've been colonized way too many times. So Filipinos, I can't speak for other Asians, but Filipinos will come here and everything's like, oh, just be quiet, don't cause a ruckus, just study hard, and then be a nurse, and then you make money, and then just ignore everything.
Yeah.
And that's the culture we live in. Yeah. We're just a silent minority. Like, oh, we'll get harassed, but we'll be quiet, because guess what? We don't want to cause an uproar. Mm-hmm. Right? But we don't see that, like I always go back again to the Watsonville riots, right? Way back to the Watsonville riots, when when we were the migrant farm workers up in the Fresno and the Stockton area, and the white populace at that time didn't like that because we were quote unquote taking their jobs, and most of the guys that obviously immigrated were farm workers, so they're more like 14-1 men to women ratio. And obviously, I mean, who are the young guys going to pick up on? The local women, right? But that's not right, because now you're sleeping with savages or whatever. But and then there were the Watsonville riots and everything, and the Filipinos chose to leave. They went back home, and once they left, it's basically like the Mexicans that were there, they took over, like they kind of picked up where the Filipinos left. And that's how you have more like, the Cesar Chavez movement and all that stuff, the farm workers. But the thing is that, we as Asians, we always have the ability to go the fuck home. Black people don't, because this is their fucking home.
Yeah.
They like, it's so easy. Like, it's so easy for us to go, oh, well, if not working out here, I'll just go back home to the Philippines. Where your friends? And I don't even say where your black, where black people gonna go. Now go, where are your friends gonna go? Because they're technically your friends. Where are your friends gonna go? They can't go anywhere. Yeah. Where are they gonna run off to? How can they escape this? So you have to be that much more of an ally and fight for it. But you also have to have an understanding, because if you don't have an understanding, that fight isn't really in you.
No, that's very true. It stays very shallow, which is why, like, it stops. And we see that when things stop trending, when the trending stops. And it's so interesting that you say that, because it's so funny, because I feel like, even like as a person who was not born in the Philippines, like that was always an option. Like I've heard like my aunts and uncles just like say that to their kids, like, you could just go to the Philippines, just go live in the Philippines then. You don't like it here, go live in the Philippines. Which is so weird, because but like, because I'm like, I don't want to do that. but technically, like, it's also kind of my home that I can go to if like things like went to crap. That's true, but other people don't have that. Like, and if I move back, I have like all of my family. It's literally like I have people to run back to.
You'd prosper because you're light skinned.
Thanks for the bleaching, Mom.
Yeah.
This is what it was all for.
Yeah, but okay, so let's go back to that topic, because I got so much to say about it. It's just
okay.
Unfortunately, it will never change in the Philippines. It will never change in the Philippines, and I don't think
you really believe that.
I truly believe it.
Okay.
It's because it's so subconscious that it's now almost part of being like it's almost being part of being Filipino. Like there's still that class system that you have, and because of that class system, you can never change minds, right? I mean, it's like if you watch film, Filipino film, even to this day, like, who do you see on Filipino TV? See anybody dark?
No, they're so light.
Yeah, they're all
so like, because that's the bleached color. I'm like, no one's that color there. Do you know what I mean? It's the bleach color.
Yeah, well, it's the bleach color, plus it's the lighting, and then the makeup. But again, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and you see it. Like, look, if you're not Filipino and you don't understand, just go look at Filipino makeup tutorials or Filipino makeup vloggers, and you'll see almost half their content is about whitening products. Yeah. Right? It's always about whitening products, and it's like now what's big the last couple of years is what? To look like you're Korean. Because it's not good enough to look dark and be Filipino, because it technically is still a struggle. If you're dark in the Philippines, you're still looked upon as somebody from the farm, somebody that's doing this, and it's downright wrong. And that's why I love YouTube. I love the fact that if you're Filipino and you're dark as hell, but you're talented, you're educated, start a vlog. You'll get popular that way and people will love you. But again, the problem with that is that not everybody is that talented. So we still have to fix that problem at home.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand what you're saying. And, like a lot of times when I think of like, when I watch like Filipino shows and stuff and they're, especially like their game shows or stuff like that, like it's always like trying to be super like American, Wait,
hold on. Sorry.
Beep, 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 beep. I'm just gonna do this. We can all see him in the back. This is me distracting you, and it's not really working because I can't think of anything. Okay, and he's back.
I was just told something was burning. It was my incense.
Oh. Oh yeah, Rich is burning incense. Everybody, just so you know, he's burning incense to help him chill out. You know what I think, and I think we've had this conversation before. Like the Philippines, like they like to copy other people, especially like with the West and stuff. Like
because it's the standard set forth by the West, right? Yeah. So it's like it's the colonization. So because the influx of Americans being in the Philippines and the culture that they brought, everybody that was quote unquote beautiful was blonde hair, blue eyes, right? Yeah. Like I'll be honest, when I was growing up, I thought beauty was blonde hair and blue eyes. When I first came to the Philippines, I wanted to go to the beach and see somebody with blonde hair and blue eyes. But the thing is that because I remember that this was when I came here like in 85, right? Like in 81 when I first came to the United States. I flew into San Francisco and I was like, I wanted to go to the beach. I want to see somebody with blonde hair and blue eyes because that is what that's what the standards were.
Yeah. It's true. It's very, very true. And like, and when you said that and that story, I just like thought about all my Barbies, growing up and playing with Barbie. What does your Barbie look like? It's hella blonde and like blonde hair, blue eyed, Well,
no, like even right now, it's subconscious, right? If I asked you, close your eyes and think of a, like let's say in the Spanish colonization days, think about what a Filipino or Filipina would look if she owned land. If you close your eyes right now, you wouldn't think a dark Filipino.
No.
Right? Even now, like if you see somebody in a Maria Clara, if you picture in your head right now, she would not be dark.
No.
Right? But if I told you she was like a warrior princess or somebody, you go, oh, that's more traditional clothing. You go, oh, in your head, you're going, oh, she's kind of dark.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's just real. Because like, really, when you said that, I was just like, yeah. You imagine people darker because that's everyone's skin color. Everyone's skin color is not that weird, translucent, odd color. You're right. It's helped by like their soft lights. Their soft lights and also the makeup where it just makes this really strange translucent white color. It's like super not normal. But like, and like that shit make me sad too. Like, every time like when you're like family watch like Miss Universe or whatever, those things come around and then you see like someone from the Philippines and they're just like, you don't even look Filipino to me.
Yeah, like because technically they're not. They're like half Filipinos, and I don't. It's that's the thing right now. It's like the big trend. Like everybody's half. Either you're half Saudi Arabian, you're half Moroccan, you're half Korean, you're half Chinese, you're half Spanish, you're half English, you're half French. Like almost everybody you see on TV is half something in the Philippines. It's because it's again, it's that lighter skin tone. That's the beauty standard. It's like, you have to have the pointy nose, the light skin, the fair complexion, the sort of big boobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're a guy, you have to be, you have to have the light eyes, the sharp pointy nose, and then you have to be like 5'11", 6'2", and you're considered like handsome.
Yeah. And it's like so ridiculous because it's just like that's not what we look like.
Yeah.
It's so much like self-hate, and it's just like that's not what our noses look like. I'm just like, how many of you have had surgery? I'm like, how many of you like that's surgery for you? Because I'm just like,
yeah. Hey, that's why it's tough sledding in the Philippines, only because they don't necessarily see it as a problem.
Because it's so ingrained. It's true. Because even like even people who do work on a farm and stuff like that, they're still gonna bleach their skin. Everyone bleaches their skin.
Yeah,
that's just you're right.
The whitening products. It's like, man, like okay, it's not just a Filipino problem too. Like India had this huge. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry there too. Like everybody in India was trying to like lighten their skin, but hey, I've seen a lot of y'all Indians because I've lived in Cupertino. Y'all ain't no. Actually, my great grandfather was from India, so I can say these things. And we ain't that light, we ain't that dark. I mean, we ain't that light, bro. Like but yeah, it's But really, to understand the colorism in the Philippines, you have to look way back into. It's basically it's deeply rooted in, colonization, but it's also deep rooted in the social structure of the Philippines.
Yeah.
You and to this day you can't. It's really hard for somebody that's dark skinned to move up that ladder, and that's why they start young. They start bleaching their skins. They stay inside. They don't go outside. They basically wear a huge comforter around their whole body when they're walking around outside. It's to protect their skin, and a lot of it is ingrained because their parents or their parents' parents or somebody in their family really struggled to get to where they're at some point, and it's ingrained in them to not be dark because nobody's going to give you a job, and two, nobody's going to marry somebody dark.
That's sad. What a sad dose of reality, but that's so real.
But also, hey, if you guys are watching this in the Philippines and you're a little bit dark and you're cute, like, hit me up.
This is not what this is for, right?
No, I just want to.
Please stop hitting on people on my live show. This is not what this is for.
But in all seriousness, I mean that's really, I mean, when you want to look at it, you really have to go that far, and that's why I say sometimes there, maybe there's hope, but I really it's like a small light at the end of the tunnel for me. It's because it's still part of our social economic situation in the Philippines. Look at all of the congressmen. Look at everybody. Like, think about anybody that's actually wealthy in the Philippines. None of them will be dark.
No. Well, that's why I feel like people are confused to what Filipinos are.
I'm sorry?
Like, I feel like that's why people are also confused to what Filipinos are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and sort of the confusion is that, because it's just like, no, we're not that color, but now, like, we're making us look like another Asian, like another kind of Asian. Like, or all the Asians are conforming to this European weird aesthetic, and so now we're looking like each other in that way, which is just not Asian. It's just weird. But yeah, it's true.
And the thing is like, like a lot of us, there's nothing that we can do because of, obviously our bloodlines that we, like I can't ever get really dark. Then I just turn red and I blister. But like it's there's not much that you can do, but we can't, but we understand that not every Filipino is going to be light, and not every Filipino is going to be dark either.
Yes, but they won't be that weird translucent color though. They're not going to be that color.
No, that's like BB cream. That's like BB cream plus foundation plus the bad lighting. I don't know what's up with Filipino shows with the lighting's really bad, and it's almost like they only have that one spotlight. It's an old spotlight. It's not even a soft box. It's an actual spotlight with a gel insert. But yeah, it's and yeah. So, but basically, what I'm saying is that if you really want to really deep down, and then if you have problems in your family with prejudice and colorism, and then you have problems as far as calling out, especially your elders, micro attacks. Just do it little by little. Just like, Mom, that's not right. You shouldn't say that. And then walk away. Run! And then they'll be like, huh, what is going on in their head, huh? And then come back again and go, are you dating that black boy again? Mom, he's my boyfriend. He's nice. And then walk away. No. Because that's the best that I can come up with, because Filipinos, how it is. Anything that you say can be deemed as quote unquote disrespectful. So if you're in that situation, plan your attacks. Change the world, but plan your attacks.
And that's what we're going to end with. I feel like I don't even need to ask for a wrap-up question, because you just wrapped it up all there, and it was pretty good. And as much as I'm laughing and I'm like, that's ridiculous, it's really not. That's literally a plan that you can try and with your family, because it is really hard speaking up to our elders, because it's really easy for people to smack you down. Because they're just that's disrespectful and all that. So, we all got to try different ways. If you tried other ways and you had a deep, meaningful conversation and you were just being squashed down and, berated, try Rich's way. Yeah. Little bombs and then walk away. That could be definitely a way to just start. What is that movie called? Inceptioning them.
Or actually just ask the questions what is it, Lola, what exactly is your problem with them? What exactly is wrong? And then you never know. There could be some deep-seated trauma. Some of them immigrated here and they didn't have money, so they ended up in a not so good neighborhood, and it just so happened that they got in an argument with their black neighbor at one point, and that's deep-seated aggression. You know what I mean? Just ask the question, why is it such a big problem? Instead of attacking, figure out why. I guess that the whole calling in thing, right?
Yeah.
I like that.
Call them in, just bring them this way.
Right. But also, you guys just learn. There's a lot of shady Filipino American history that you guys need to learn, and it'll make you appreciate your elders that have come here before. It'll make you understand exactly why you should actually be an ally, especially in the Black Lives Matter movement, because what they had to go through with slavery and the abolitionist movements and all that stuff, it really paved the way for a lot of Filipinos to be able to immigrate to America a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on and speaking. I knew that was going to be good. So thank you for coming on and speaking. Obviously, Rich is always someone you can call upon really quickly. I give him a lot of shit, but he's very reliable. He's a great guy. Rich, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com, Rich Benares. And
I spelled your name.
That's not me, though. I'm not the NAACP, but that's me right there. Benares. There you go.
I did it.
There you go. You can find me there. And you can also, I think, find me on Twitter, Akosi Rich, AKOS.
You're on Twitter?
Oh, no. Actually, I am. But no, not on Twitter, because Twitter's too toxic for me.
Instagram. Find Rich on Instagram. Akosi Rich.
Akosi Rich,
You'll
yeah.
see his face.
Or just type in my name. I think it comes up anyway.
Yeah, it does. As far as I remember. So yay! Thanks for being here. Thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you whoever's going to watch this afterwards. Next week we have more people come in, so you know the conversation's going to keep going. Again, Rich, thank you very much for your insight. And for our little history lesson, that was really good. I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
Yeah, and for all my Filipina, dark-skinned Filipina kababayans, hit me up.
Yeah, okay, bye. I hate it.